Well, hello there. So I filmed this film yesterday, this video all about my wish list, and my wish list was so disorganized in a way that I had not even realized until I decided to go through. So the realization that I actually made was that my wish list contains within it two separate wish lists: the practical, functional, everyday wish list, and then there is the hidden fantasy wish list within that larger realm of the wish list. And the fantasy wish list is what I'm going to be talking about today. Items that I'm actually not going to be buying. They're things that I'm like de-influencing you from buying. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you, and the app or the program that I'm using to corral all of my items together is called ShopMy. It's the affiliate platform that I use. So if you're wondering what app I'm using, it's that app. I'll link the collection of all these items that I'm showing and link them individually all down below as well. The first item, which is these amazing pair of boots by Gianvito Rossi. They're the Wiley 60 suede pair of boots. Just look at them. You can tell why they're on my wish list. They are beautiful. They are perfect in my eyes and I love them. The shade of brown to me is giving me a little bit of pause because even though it is that very, very classic Western shade of brown, it is more on the warmer side, and my wardrobe tends to pull more towards the cooler side. Having said that, I mean, they would go perfectly with navy, they'd go perfectly with a pair of blue jeans. The 60 refers to the height of the heels, so it's 6 centimeters tall, which to my mind is the perfect height for a pair of like everyday heels, something that you can wear running around doing your errands. It's kind of almost going to feel like you're not really wearing a pair of heels. Personally, I really prefer to wear flat shoes, but on my wish list at the moment, as far as my actual real wish list, is finding a pair of boots that are this same shape, but without the Gianvito Rossi price tag, because I'm just not going to be spending $3,000 on one single item for my wardrobe. It's not where my budget's at now, but I still feel like I genuinely cannot justify spending that kind of money on one pair of shoes, one bag, anything. Obviously, another con of this pair of shoes is that they are suede, and suede takes a little bit more care, a little bit more maintenance, a little bit more babying. And especially at this stage of my life with young children and stains and, you know, kids trying on my shoes and walking them around in who knows what kind of muck. However, if I did find a pair of boots that were like a tenth of the price, like 300 New Zealand dollars, that would be something that I would be absolutely happy to pay for a boot in this kind of similar style. The second item that I have on my wish list is the Dôen Romy tee, and this is a lovely little piece. It is essentially a cotton pointel t-shirt. I mean, I really don't need to be paying $279, that's New Zealand dollars, for what is essentially just a cotton t-shirt. The reason why this is on my list is because it is the perfect kind of style. I love something that is casual yet a little bit dressy. It makes it so that getting dressed is kind of effortless. I don't need to over accessorize or anything, when my kind of foundational casual pieces also have sweet little feminine details like this. Like this particular t-shirt has the scoop neck, it has the white against the black, and it has the pointel kind of knitted detail. It makes it so that it's very kind of timeless, very feminine, and I love the idea of this being layered underneath anything because it has the black and the white of the sleeve, seeing that peeking through. But again, the reason why this has moved on to the fantasy realm of my wish list is that, I mean, I really just don't need to be spending that much money when it comes to a cotton t-shirt. I'm happy to spend that if it was, say, like a cashmere jumper, or if it was a pair of shoes for that kind of same amount of money, or even a pair of jeans. But something that's a cotton t-shirt is going to get washed, it's going to be close to my body and get smelly, and you know, it just needs to hold up to a lot of wear, a lot of washing. I just don't think it's worth allocating that amount of budget to an item like this that's going to wear out or not last as long for me personally in my wardrobe. The third piece on my lovely fantasy wish list, which I will not be buying, is this dress by Christy Dôen. It's from their new collection, I believe. It's called the Bryn dress. It's just utterly lovely. I mean, The longer that I look at all of these wish list items, like I'm definitely going to end up talking myself into buying one of these, which is not the aim of the game today. But the Bryn dress, the reason why I mean, look at it, it's so perfect, it's so lovely. It's organic cotton. It does sort of go into the realm of like being slightly too expensive for the way that I would personally wear it. This is the kind of budget that I would be spending, possibly more so on like, we'll say an event piece, but an event like formal wear piece that I would be able to wear for years to come to several events. And this dress to me, because of the cotton, because of the style here, it kind of reads a little bit more casual. And to me, if I'm going to be buying a casual dress or like a runaround dress or a dress for summer, I kind of want it to be more in that like maybe like $200 range. It is so perfect and I would wear it so often. The only thing that's holding me back is one, the price, and two, the fact that again, because of my kids, sometimes white and especially expensive white things just give me a little bit of the fear as far as stains and like if anything oily gets on them or if red wine gets on them. But it also like gives me a little bit of like fear in my heart, and I want to be able to wear things really comfortably without being terrified that I'm going to get something on it. I feel like actual real life me would have a little bit of that anxiety and kind of not feel 100% comfortable wearing this, even though it is dreamy, perfect, and like if somebody like posted it to me, like I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no. I'd be like, oh, thanks, you shouldn't have, it's perfect. Item number 4 is this pair of shoes from Loeffler Randall. At first glance, they look so impractical, right? With the ballet shoes, they literally just look like you stepped off a stage and you just had your little ballet dance moment. I love these. I had a pair of red ballet flats when I was a kid that had like a bow on the front, a fabric bow, very reminiscent of like a lot of the bows that Loeffler Randall do on their shoes. And I had another pair of shoes that were a denim lace up wedge, and this shoe is like a hybrid of those two of my favorite shoes that I had when I was younger. So I just love this so much for the nostalgia, but also I would 1000% wear this pair of shoes in my everyday real life. I love how they've paired it here with this gingham dress, and it's very similar to how I would wear it with my like fuller dresses or like white midi dresses and full kind of skirt dresses. They kind of come up at a midi length, so they have enough leg space to show off the ties on your leg. I love that the actual shape of this shoe is very reminiscent of an actual ballet shoe with the flat kind of pointed toe. I feel like this shape is very flattering. I love the classic red, and even though it seems really impractical to have all those laces to do up, you're probably just going to be wearing them throughout the day and only lacing them and unlacing them once. Like lace them up when you put them on, unlace them when you take them off. I could see myself actually owning this pair of shoes, but the reason why it went into my fantasy self is sort of because of the stage of wardrobe building that I'm at now. And the stage that I'm at now is really just building out the foundations. I'm really basically like starting from scratch and trying to get as many pieces as I can that are super practical, super wearable, and that can go through so many different seasons and different scenarios. So even though I love this pair of shoes, they aren't up there at the top of the priority list. So they've like kind of slid into the fantasy realms a little bit more, because I just know that at this price point especially, it's not going to be something that I'm going to save up for. It's not going to be something that I'm going to prioritize. There's always going to be something that I'll probably want a little bit more than this pair of shoes. But again, like if they fell from heaven into my lap, like I would be absolutely ecstatic and delighted. I also want to say, like, why aren't more people talking about Loeffler Randall? They're my favorite designer. I love almost everything that they put out. Honestly, going onto their website for a browse is kind of painful to me because I know that I'm going to love everything, but I also know that it's not going to be something that I'm going to be able to afford or prioritize in my wardrobe anytime soon. So We do it to ourselves, ladies. If you've seen my video where I did a roundup of my favorite jewelry brands, you'll know all about Kinn. And this next piece is from Kinn. So it's their Jardin oval ring in emerald. I love the style of this ring. It's very like a crossover point almost between something very vintage and something very modern. Somehow it just like sings to both of those sides of the spectrum. It's in 14 karat gold and it has this beautiful bezel set emerald. I love almost anything bezel set. It's my favorite type of setting for a stone. I love the shape and the size of this one. It's kind of unusual, I feel like, to find an oval shaped emerald. Of course, my budget is just not going to stretch at the moment to $6,000. That's New Zealand dollars at least, so I don't have to like double it in my head. The fact that it's a natural emerald is very attractive to me, as well as the fact that it's 14 karat solid gold. Obviously, this would be more of an heirloom piece, something that you can own and then pass down. It kind of is something that you always wear and then it becomes a signature and you pass it down through the generations. Emeralds are one of the most beautiful, beautiful stones. I feel like green just suits so many different people as well, because it sort of like sits in the middle of the spectrum between warm and cool. I just don't have enough good things to say about this, but again, I'm just not in the market to be spending $6,000 on like one single piece of jewelry at the moment. So maybe in my millionaire era we'll get there, but for now I can just look at it and love it from afar. This next piece that's on my wish list is by another jeweler that I've just discovered. And unfortunately for me, I seem to have very expensive taste. Anyway, this is by Jane Pope. It's a collaboration between Jane and Kirk Robert Chambers. It's so beautiful. They're kind of marketing it as more of a men's ring or a unisex ring. But to me personally, I love this style. Possibly it is because it has that minimal kind of vibe to it. I love that it's a bar and it's kind of flat. It feels like it would be something that would stack really nicely with other pieces, while also kind of like holding its own. It's just so beautiful. They have the lighter jade and a darker green jade. Just absolutely stunning, these pieces. They're all made to order, they're one of a kind, and they're stunning. Can you tell I have a thing for green stones? Love, love, love. This actually ring is jade as well that I'm wearing today. It's one of my all-time absolute favorites. Love this one. And again, this just kind of goes on to the fantasy wish list because it's more of like, it's like a nice to have. The thing with like the fantasy wish list is you have to be so ruthless with yourself according to like, what do I like and love, but like what's actually super practical for me to own, to save up for, and what am I going to prioritize. You really have to pit items against each other and think, okay, I love this, but do I love it more than this other thing over here? And if I had to only choose one, would it be this one? So that you're not just willy-nilly like loving everything, buying everything, and then kind of like falling down in the really practical, really foundational basics of your wardrobe, which I will be talking about that in my next wishlist video next week, so stay tuned. We have this pair of Dôen jeans from Dôen, and I went with the crop jean version because I do have a very short inseam. The inseam of my leg is somewhere between 26 and maybe 27 inches, so it's quite short. Usually when you go to a petite sizing, it'll be like 28 inches is the shortest inseam that most brands will do. So my inseam is even shorter than the petite sizes that most brands do. So anyway, that's an aside. But the Dôen jean here, the reason why it's on my fantasy wish list is because, I mean, of course, number one, the price. It's like more than $200 for this pair of jeans. I don't even know what that jumps up to when we get to New Zealand dollars, because as soon as you are exporting from a brand like Dôen, they add on an extra like 15, 20, 25% to just get it shipped to New Zealand. You know, Dôen is pricey enough without adding an extra 25% onto the top of that. Like here for the New Zealand amount, it's $500 for this pair of jeans, which to my mind, that's just like too much. It's too much of a markup, and you could get like 5 good pairs of jeans for that same amount of money. The other reason is that as far as Dôen and the way that they cut their styles, it tends to be more like for a figure that's more straight up and down, And my body, especially as far as jeans, I need something that's more complementing like a curvier figure, because my hip to waist ratio can be like about 12 inches difference between the waist and the hips. But also the other thing about having like wider hips is that I also have like a bum and full thighs. Jeans will fit differently depending on like what shape your bum is, what shape your thighs are, things like that, you know? We all know the struggle when it comes to jeans. So this is kind of like a question mark pair of jeans. I like the idea in my mind of how they would fit on my body, but as far as the reality, I'm not sure if they would live up to that kind of fantasy that I have in my head. They call it a classic straight leg, and what I'm really looking for in a pair of jeans that are like this is more of like a taper, like not a, because a straight leg ends up almost looking like kind of like a baggy pair of jeans or like a carpenter pair of jeans. I really don't have the budget to be going out and spending $500 just to try a pair of jeans, only to then have to return it and spend like $30 more to return the pair of jeans. So long story short, if I had a Dôen shop nearby, then I would be happy to go in and try them on. If you guys know of any jeans that fit this same way, but that are in more of like the Levi's realm of affordability, please pop those recommendations down below. I wanted to talk about this bag by Decadent Copenhagen. It's the Carol small shoulder bag. I have talked about Decadent on my channel before. I love their pieces, even though I've only ever seen them online. I've never like held one in my hands, but you can just tell from the photos when you compare it to say like Araton or something like that, the quality is just so much higher. This particular bag they're calling the small shoulder bag, even though to me I would classify this as more of like a medium to even bordering large bag. It's just a little hobo bag. I'll see if I can find a photo of it against a model so that you can get it for size. So there it is there. It's like, I would call that just a regular hobo sized handbag. Especially on someone like me who is petite, where these kind of bags tend to come up looking a little bit larger than they often do on the models. The only thing giving me pause about this bag, other than the price, is the fact that the drop of the handle looks like to put it on with two hands, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't look like the kind of bag that you can pick up with one hand and like kind of swing over your shoulder, because like your elbow can't fit through that hole, you know. It kind of like sits a little bit more snug up under your arm, and I just don't always have two hands free. Usually I'm like wrangling a kid in one hand, like got stuff all in my other hand, so I quite like to have bags that I can just grab with one hand and put on my shoulder. It's not a deal breaker, it's just something that I like to keep in mind for the actual practical way that I use my bag in my actual life. I do love it in this mocha color, which is a very beautiful, deep, dark brown. It's almost pulling towards burgundy, and I feel like it would just go so perfectly with navy, with gray, maybe even with pink would be lovely. I love that it has a zip that makes it feel so much more secure for me, even though I don't really worry too much about security in my everyday life. It just makes it so that it would be the perfect bag that you could probably travel with, sling over your shoulder, and then you know you have the security of the zip, but you have kind of like, it's pretty capacious to keep all your stuff ready, you know, say if you need passports and stuff like that. I feel like this will be the perfect kind of travel bag, especially if you're going flying anywhere. I love that middle seam down the middle as well. Just everything about the shape, the size, and all the details on this bag is utterly perfect. But it would be kind of one of those pieces that I would kind of like save up for, and maybe even like purchase if they had it on sale, especially Black Friday or something like that. They do sales from time to time, but not very often, this brand. They're like handmade in Turkey. I love their pieces, but it's just one of those, like, it would be like the big purchase for the year. So it's kind of going to sit on my wish list for a long time, so that I know that I still love it like 6 months later, 8 months later. It's not the kind of thing that I would purchase like willy-nilly. It would take a lot of intention and a lot of saving up and like looking at it and eyeballing it against other pieces before I decided that this was the exact one that I wanted. The last piece that I wanted to talk about is this barn jacket from J. Crew, and this is kind of like just a placeholder for barn jackets in general. I made a post recently on my community page, and I feel like barn jackets are a little bit divisive. Like, they're not the most flattering jacket, but they are very, very practical. Aside from the fact that they're actually quite trendy right now, I feel like they're quite classic, especially if you're living in Britain. I used to own a jacket very similar to this when I was living in Ireland. I find them incredibly practical. The thing that drew me to this one particular jacket is the fact that it is cropped. So as someone who's more on the petite side and more of a pear shape, I feel like it just cuts me off at such a better point of my body than the longer one, even though the longer kinds are definitely more practical. When you consider the weather, the rain, the wind, it just covers more of your body. But as far as here in New Zealand, we really only have winter for like 3 months of the year, at least where I live. And so something that's like this style of a jacket, which I would only be wearing for 3 months of the year and possibly not even every day, that's just not really something that I'm going to be spending upwards of $400, $500 New Zealand dollars for. And the thing is that this style sold out so fast. So it's definitely into the fantasy list because you can't even get your hands on it in my size anymore. This is one of the problems that I have with shopping on sites like J.Crew, because they tend to sell out of things and they don't bring back the same styles often. They might do a newer version or like reinvent the style again this time next year, but they tend to just sort of be like seasonally based, move with the seasons, and then what was kind of like here last season is kind of gone next season. I tend to like try and stay away from sites like this because otherwise I'll get like a little bit flustered, like, oh, maybe I should try and buy it now, maybe it's going to sell out. And I don't like to put that pressure on myself when I'm buying something. I like to be very intentional, take my time, and even if I like it, to wait at least a month before I'm purchasing something. There is a lovely jacket from Alex Mill, which is longer, but it's in this same kind of style, and I like that one just as much. The Alex Mill version is definitely lovely, and I feel like this would probably be more of a practical version for me than the shorter one. Even though the shorter one would be more flattering on my body, the longer one definitely, as far as like the weather and keeping you, actually protected, would be so much nicer. And I feel like if it fell like below my hips, like kind of like mid-thigh, it would probably be okay of a length. So I'd probably have to like try it out actually on my body to figure out if it's the perfect length. But I really love the styles that they have. The kind of red burgundy is so perfect. I've never seen a red or like a reddy burgundy kind of brick color like this in this kind of style of jacket. But equally, I also love the classic kind of khaki. It just pops so nicely with the turned up cuffs and like the collar. I just think that looks so lovely. And it's really easy to create a kind of a tonal outfit with something like this as well. If you're wearing white underneath or if you're wearing browns underneath. Oh, lovely. They say it's based on a vintage hunting jacket, and you probably could find similar pieces to this on Vinted or Depop or secondhand as well. Anyway, if I was living back in Ireland or living in England or somewhere like that, this would definitely be shooting right up to the top of my list. And I think I would be willing to pay so much more, because definitely you need that kind of style of jacket for at least 6, if not 8 months out of the year, versus like here where I am in New Zealand, where it's definitely more sunny for most of the year. We don't have too much weather coming through. I'd probably end up wanting to dedicate slightly less of my budget to an item like that. There's definitely a few more pieces on my fantasy wish list, and I'll link that all down below if you'd like to go and see. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at that many items because I think I've talked enough for one day. Let me know if you have anything on your fantasy wish list, if there's anything that you're thinking like, God, I would love to own that, but you just know you're never going to bite the bullet on. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, leave me this little emoji down in the comments, and I will talk to you very shortly in my next video. Bye!